Hi everyone, Leanne here from Jaded Blossom, and it is time for the September 2024 release hop. And I have another project to share. Hey, so I'm using the Ghostly Greetings stamp set, the new Ghostly Greetings outline dies, the Ghost Face stamp set, or the Ghost Faces stamp set, the Gnome Friends Ghost dies, and the Mason Jar dies, all from Jaded Blossom. I'm also using the odds and ends and the Sweet and Spooky 6-inch pad from Doodlebug. And I did put that little ghost together on the assembly video, but there's not exactly much to do with that. It's very simple. Okay, so I'm going to be doing some die cutting today, and I'm using my Anna Griffin Empress machine. So I cut this mason jar die out of pattern paper from that Sweet and Spooky 6-inch pad from Doodlebug and some paper ink white cardstock. So I wanted to cut the jar in the center of both of these pieces of paper. I'm just going to trim off my tape. And I'm going to be making, what's it called? A shaker card. So it'll be a cute and easy shaker card, not a shape card, shaker card, Leanne. Okay, so I'm going to sandwich some acetate. Now this was just a package from, some stickers or something like that. I saved my acetate packaging to use for shakers. So I'm just going to sandwich that in between these two layers. I'm going to use some double-sided tape. Whenever I use acetate, I hate using glue. I find it glops all over the place. You can never, it'll stick eventually, but it's a real pain. So I really like to use double-sided tape when I'm creating with acetate. So I'm just making sure that it's stuck down well, and then I'll peel off the release paper, and then I'll add my acetate to this layer. So this is just going to be a fun jar shaker card. So that'll go on the front of my card base. There we go. My card base was cut out of paper ink cardstock 4.25 by 11, scored at 5.5 inches to make a vertical A2 size card, kind of what I usually do, right? There we go. I'm just trimming off any overhanging acetate there. And now I am going to just trace this jar on the front of my card because I want to have a different pattern behind my jar. And I just want to know where to put my paper. Now I could have covered the whole layer if I wanted to, but saving paper and stuff. Didn't have to do that. So I'm just going to trace it onto this pattern paper as well. And then I'll trim it out with a bit of a border just to allow myself, some mistakes, some wiggle room, right? And I will use an eraser to erase my pencil line just in case it shows. There we go. And then I'm going to stick that down over my penciled in jar. It's not perfect, but you get the gist. There we are. And I did use an eraser, like I said, to remove those pencil lines. Now I'm going to stick down my little acetate layer onto my paper tray ink white cardstock layer. I did this mostly because I want it to be a little bit stiffer, I guess, because I'm going to be popping up that whole front, and I didn't want it to dip or anything. Doodlebug has nice thick cardstock or nice thick pattern paper, but I don't think it's thick enough to do that. I like to add, a background of thicker cardstock to that to, add some weight to it. So, it won't dip or squish in the mail. So I'm just adding the top of the jar in there. It's going to be covered by this little pattern paper from that same Sweet and Spooky 6-inch pad from Doodlebug. I just wanted to make sure everything was level. Now I'm going to add my little pattern paper to the top of my jar. There we go. And I'm just trimming off that edge. I was thinking I was going to cover the entire card front, but then I decided why. I like to use a border. Why not just, make it easier for myself? So I'm trimming this off using my Fiskars trimmer. And then I'll be able to line up this card front a little bit easier that way. There we go. So now I'm going to do the inside of my card. I'm going to stamp a sentiment from that new stamp set called Ghostly Greetings. I'm using some ephemera, the odds and ends from the Sweet and Spooky odds and ends set. to put on the inside of my card, kind of like I usually do when I'm creating with Doodlebug paper. So it says, happy haunting ghoul friend. I'm going to be using one of these misty corners just to get this sentiment straight. And then I'll use VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink to do my stamping. So there we go. And remember, try not to press too hard. You know, it squishes, you know, it kind of makes your font thicker, and it can, you know, obscure the fine detail of your stamping. So just press lightly, and you can do it more than once if you have a MISTI. Next, I'm going to add a strip of paper to the inside. That is from that same 6-inch pad from Doodlebug. I believe it's maybe 3/4 of an inch wide, you know, but it doesn't matter. It was just a leftover piece. And I'm going to have the right-hand side covered by these pumpkins. So I wasn't too concerned about that. So I'm adding some Barely Art glue down, and I'll use my reverse tweezers to get it in place. Isn't this cute? I love the pink in with the Halloween colors. I just think it's fun. And then I'm going to add a little cat because I can. Why not, right? There we go. Now I'm using some Post-it tape just to cover up that stamping, because I find that VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink takes some time to dry, and then it messes up the inside of your card a bit, right? Next, I'm using a black glazed pen from Sakura, and I'm going to color in the eyes, because I find that at least the one for the kitty cat, the eyes blend right in. So I want to make them pop a bit. But I'm going to color in the little pumpkin eyes too. It kind of gives them almost like a shiny dimension, but you got to let it dry. So there we go. And I'm also using a secure white Jelly Roll pen in a number 10 to add some highlights to all these little guys as well, just to make it, you know, the whole thing pop a little bit, right? And you can see how that black glaze pen really makes the eyes pop. So I'm just adding some little freckles, because why wouldn't you, right? And there it is. So kind of fun. I'm going to set that off to dry to the side. I'm just taking this little, you know, leftover piece of paper from Paper Tray Ink, and I'm going to stamp the sentiment, Hey Boo. And I'll stamp that in that same VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. There it is. I'm just going to stamp it again to make sure I get a nice clear image. There. And I'm using the odds and ends, or the outline dies for the Ghostly Greetings stamp set. Just using some of my little wire cutters to cut out that outline die. And then I will line that up on my little sentiment, and then cut it out with my Anna Griffin Mini Empress machine. My brain is just elsewhere today. I'm so sorry, guys. There we go. So I'm going to add the little bow on. That was cut out of gingham linen paper from Doodlebug. There we go. I'll pop out that little Hey Boo. Isn't that cute? I'm also using the bow dies, and I cut out that same gingham linen, but I'm using pink, and I'm using the linen side. And I'm just going to add a little bow to the jar, because, you know, of course you're going to have a bow on your mason jar. I'm just going to run my bone folder along that bow just so it bends nicely. And I'm using some Barely Art glue in the center, and I'm just going to fold in each end, and I'll flatten it a bit. I'll do the same thing with the other side, and then I'm going to use my reverse tweezers just to clamp and hold it shut while it dries. And I'll set that aside to dry for a sec. There we go. That's the great thing about reverse tweezers, right? Okay, so in the meantime, I'm going to add some foam strips around my shaker, the shaker jar. So these, I believe, are Doris, but they're sold by so many different companies. So, you know, keep an eye out and you can pick them up. I think Honeybee has them. A bunch of companies have them. Just, it's easy. It's an easy way to make a shaker card. So I'm going to use these around my jar, and then I'm going to be, you know, filling in the rest of the framed area with some Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, you know, and edges of Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, stuff like that. Now, I don't show you the whole thing just because it's a little redundant, but I do cover the whole thing in that. Next, I'm going to fill up my shaker window. These are from Kindred Stamps. I don't even know if they are available anymore, but many other companies make these really cute little shaker pieces. They're like made out of clay. So I'm using little ghosts, little pumpkins, and then I'm going to use these Pink Fresh Studio. These are called, oh, sorry, I lied. First, I'm going to use these. These are from Close to My Heart. They're called Bitty Beads. They're just little tiny beads, white beads, you know, to make the nice shaker noise. And then I'm going to add these Pink Fresh Stargazer rhinestones. I'm going to add a few of these too, just for shine. So I'm just popping a few of them in. There we go. At the end of the video, I actually shake the shaker with the sound on so you can hear what it sounds like. I love a shaker. It's super fun. There we go. So returning those rhinestones back into the jar. And there we go. And now I'm going to line up my card front just with a bit of a border. There we go. So it's cut about 1/8 of an inch smaller than an A2 size card front, right? And isn't that fun? So there is the shaking, but like I said, later you'll hear it with the sound. So next I'm going to pop up my little ghosty with some of those same Stampin' Up! Dimensionals. There we go. And I'll use a couple of mini ones there as well. I'm going to peel off all those release papers and pop that in the center of my shaker background. So on a simple card like this, a shaker is really easy to do, and it adds a lot of, you know, oomph, I think. Right? Isn't that cute? Next, I'm going to add my little bow on. I'm going to first clamp the front of the bow onto the back of the bow and use my reverse tweezers to do that. Let it dry. And then we will add it to my card front with that same Barely Art glue. There we go, using my reverse tweezers. And I'll use that reverse tweezer again as a clamp to hold it down in the center. Next here, we're going to pop up that sentiment that says, "Hey Boo," with some, you know, Stampin' Up! Dimensionals, the miniature ones. Then I'll cut one in half and, you know, fit in the last two pieces. I was all thumbs today when I was making this card. I don't know, I'm telling you. But I am loving this new release. These little ghosts, I just think they're the cutest thing. You just gotta love it. And you can dress them up however you like with all of the, you know, gnome add-ons. Super cute. Different ways to add, you know, use those gnome products. So I'm just peeling off the backgrounds or the backings with my fingernails here. And I will pop that on using my reverse tweezers. Just holding it up so I can sort of see. There we go. So cute, right? Next, I'm going to add on some shape sprinkles. These are actually called Christmas Wishes. Remember, you don't have to use Christmas enamel dots to go with the pad that it was meant to go with. A lot of them match all of the Doodlebug lines. Right? The colors are all the same. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue behind that one. So this is a white one, and I'll clamp that in place as well. Next, I'm going to use some more of these on the front of my card. I'll be using these little pink ones just for fun. So I'll put 2 in the lower left of the window. Whoops. There we go. Just going to move that one over a bit. There we go. And there it is. Super fun. And there's the shaker. Gotta love an extra loud shaker, right? I think those little seed beads really work well. So thank you so much for stopping by. Be sure to hop on over to the Jaded Blossom blog, be inspired by the team. The Jaded Blossom store to get your hands on these products. Make sure you're a follower over on the Jaded Blossoms YouTube site and the Leanne K YouTube site so you can get the new videos right away. Bye, everybody.